From fans being hyped about the Lioness coming back to the UFC, to the UFC star needing to up her game if she does, here's everything you need to know about Ronda Rousey's rumored return. People are buzzing about her comeback on MMA podcasts and social media. And it's no surprise why she's got so many excited fans. After all, Ronda made quite an entrance into the MMA world back in 2010 as an amateur. She won a fight in just 23 seconds with an armbar submission. But that was just a little preview of what she had in store for her opponents. Everybody knew what Rousey was really good at, and her opponents knew they had to watch out for it. Her armbar move was legendary, one of the most effective ways to end a fight. It's like what Bruce Lee said, he's not afraid of a person who has practiced 10,000 different moves once, but instead, he's scared of the person who has practiced one move 10,000 times. And boy did Ronda meet that requirement. Rousey's background in judo helped her become a big name in MMA. She broke barriers and became a historic UFC champion. You know what? If it weren't for her, women wouldn't have joined the UFC as early as they did in 2013. You know how it goes, right? All good things eventually come to an end. Rousey's MMA journey came to an end in 2016 when she suffered her second loss. Amanda Nunes, who many consider the top female UFC fighter ever, knocked her out in less than a minute. After that defeat, Rousey decided to switch gears and try her hand at professional wrestling. She joined the WWE in 2017 and quickly became a force to be reckoned with, holding one of the company's female titles. But you see, those titles didn't mean much because WWE matches are all scripted, unlike the real deal in the UFC. Jumping ahead to 2023, rumor has it that the 36-year-old former UFC champion won't renew her contract with WWE, which could mean she's eyeing a return to the UFC. This assumption is somewhat valid. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Nunes recently retired in June, leaving the bantamweight title wide open. Plus, the UFC is planning a major event, and they need all the star power they can get. You know, Rousey would love to end her sports career with at least one more MMA victory. It would be the icing on the cake for her, and so fans are hoping she'll come at UFC 300. Ronda may not be shining as bright as before, but if she makes a comeback in the MMA world, it would be absolutely epic. UFC 300 is coming up in the first half of 2024, and Dana White, the UFC boss, is all about setting up crazy matchups like John Jones versus Tyson Fury and Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg. So, a Rousey comeback fight would totally fit the bill. Now, Ronda hasn't actually said anything about returning yet, but there's already a built-in storyline waiting for her. Even though she hasn't won an MMA fight since August 2015 and lost 2 in a row by knockout, she could step right back into the octagon and get a shot at the title. The bantamweight division she used to rule is pretty thin these days, and the UFC desperately needs some big fights after a lackluster 2023 so far. Rousey's comeback would be a massive spectacle, and she could retire on top with an incredible comeback story that would be remembered for ages. And there might be an opponent ready for her too. If she makes her UFC comeback, Ronda could potentially face a number of opponents. From Miesha Tate to Juliana Pena or Holly Holm, there's a number of fighters ready to take her on. Plus, Tate, who happens to be Rousey's former rival, would make for an awesome storyline if they were to fight again. They even coached against each other on The Ultimate Fighter, so there's some serious history there. But Juliana would also be a solid choice. She actually started her MMA journey by defeating Shayna Baszler, who happens to be a friend of Rousey. Juliana went on to win a competition and even took down Nunes to become the bantamweight champ. She did lose the title to Nunes in their rematch, but she's still a strong contender for the upcoming vacant title fight. Now imagine Ronda squaring off against Juliana for the 135-pound vacant title. That would be a dream come true for the UFC. But if she isn't available, another top contender, Pennington, could also be deserving of a title shot. From a fair play standpoint, Ronda shouldn't get an immediate title shot, considering her time off and consecutive losses. But her fame is off the charts, and that carries some weight. Last but not least, a non-title rematch with Holm would be a huge deal. She was the one who handed Rousey her first ever UFC loss. But it's unlikely that Rousey would want to go down that road again if there's no UFC gold at stake. Let's just say Holm's career has had its ups and downs since defeating Rousey. So it's clear that if Rousey returns, there are some exciting potential matchups on the table. And get this, Chelsea Chandler knows something we don't about Rousey's return. As I said before, there's a lot of buzz going around about Rousey making a comeback to real professional fighting. UFC fighter Chelsea Chandler mentioned that she's been hearing whispers about Rousey's return, possibly at 145 pounds. Chandler thinks it'd be an awesome fight if she got the chance to face Rousey. She's confident in her skills and believes she can put on a great performance. Plus, Chandler thinks Rousey's armbar move, which was her go-to trick, might not work as effectively anymore. She even mentioned that Rousey's time in WWE seems to be winding down, so she's curious to see what Ronda could bring to the table in the fighting world again. I'm not quite sure where Chandler got this information. Maybe she saw some random Instagram account spreading the idea as a rumor. Or who knows, she might have some insider knowledge being associated with the Diaz brothers and training at Cesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. In this crazy sport, anything can happen, right? Though I'm sure she wants Rousey's return just like the rest of us. After all, when Rousey was on her unbeaten streak, she was an absolute beast in the world of MMA. Her odds to win were always in her favor, with the worst odds being -190 and the highest being -1700. On average, she was favored at around -600. Rousey didn't even need judges to make a decision in her 14-fight career. She was a submission machine, especially with her deadly armbar move. In fact, her first 7 wins, both as an amateur and a pro, were all in under a minute via armbar submissions. And get this, her first 8 professional fights were all won in the first round using the same method. She only went beyond the first round twice in her entire career. That's how quickly she took care of business. Rousey wasted no time facing tough competitors at 145 pounds. She won her pro debut against Brazilian veteran Ediane Gomes. Then she went on to defeat veterans Charmaine Tweet and Sarah D'Alelio. But it doesn't stop there. Rousey even beat Julia Budd, who would become an all-time great featherweight and former Bellator champion. But the real showdown came in her 5th pro fight, when she moved down to bantamweight and took on Miesha Tate. Tate put up a good fight and was the first person to escape a Rousey armbar. But unfortunately for her, she caught her again late in the round. It was a pretty brutal moment in MMA history when Tate's arm got bent back at a 90-degree angle. Ronda was a force to be reckoned with, no doubt about it. Her dominance and vicious finishes made her a true legend in the sport. Though it's gotta be said, she has some work to put in to become the superstar she once was. But then again, she's no stranger to hard work and determination. Let's not forget her thrilling rematch between Rousey and Miesha Tate. These two went at it, and the fight went all the way to the 3rd round before Rousey sealed the deal with another armbar victory. She's a master at that move, and Rousey started showing off some new skills. She knocked out 3 of her last 4 opponents, Sarah McMahon, Alexis Davis, and Betha Correa. And let me mention this, in between those knockouts, she pulled off the fastest submission in MMA history. Yeah, you heard it right. She locked in a modified armbar against Kat Zingano and ended the fight in just 14 seconds. Rousey's fights were like lightning. They happened so fast you had to keep your eyes peeled to catch the action. Now, if she does come back, she needs this level of competitive edge or her survival will be very difficult. So from the UFC star needing to up her game if she does come back, to fans being hyped about the Lioness coming back to the UFC, that was everything you need to know about Rousey's rumored return.